Well, that was our friend Cajun on identity. To sum up or to attack it from a different perspective, there's really four immediate things you need to take care of with identity. And this is primarily with exceptionally beautiful or exceptionally desirable women. You can lighten it down a little bit with other women, but the more attractive or the more desirable she is, the more your identity is important. And the four things to keep in mind are your identity has to be coherent. I mean, it has to fit together. So, if your identity is, say you're a lawyer, well, you should probably be driving, a nice car and not necessarily wearing a punk rock t-shirt. If your identity is, this super adventurous world traveler, you're probably going to want your storytelling to reflect some of your travels, and so on and so forth. You want to have an identity that is coherent. Your identity should also be convincing. So if you pick an identity, make sure you can live that identity. Make sure it's a reasonable enough part of your life that you can be convincing with it. I mean, if you happen to play poker 5 minutes a week, you can't really have an identity that you're a poker player because there's just not going to be enough there. So and the solution to that isn't as much to fake it as to actually make the life changes to become rather than fake being the type of person that she'll be interested in, make the changes in yourself to become the type of person that she might be interested in. Now you don't have to take that to an extreme. I mean, one of the things that I love doing, I mean, it's not my identity, but one of the things that I love doing is playing board games. That's not necessarily really all that exciting for women, and especially for beautiful women. But if you're able to, and this gets back to storytelling a little bit, but if you're able to talk about that with passion and with excitement and with emotional content, that's far more interesting than the Olympic athlete or the race car driver who has an identity but isn't excited about it. So do something with your life, not necessarily professionally, but do something with your life that you can be excited about and convey that excitement when you're talking to women. Women are very attracted to passion. The identity should ideally be attractive. So, I mean, if your whole identity is, you're the guy that sits in your mom's basement jerking off to porn, you might be very coherent and convincing with it, but it's not necessarily an attractive identity. So everyone's got multiple dimensions to themselves. Not everyone's got a very exciting job, and that's fine. But you can find something, or you should make something about yourself that, is interesting and is interesting to desirable women. And, enrich your life, but certainly enrich your game and your skills as well. And the last identity is, that it be congruent. Last issue with identity is it's got to be congruent with who you really are. There are some identities that are just going to be a bridge too far. I can't be the super high energy Dennis the Menace type character. Even if I tried, it wouldn't necessarily work. Cajun is not necessarily going to be like the Don or like me. I mean, he's got, his identity and his personality that he's congruent with. And there's only so far you can move this stuff around. That's why, again, we were talking about earlier on why one of the things that makes a super conference so interesting is instead of at a regular boot camp where we've got, 5 or 6 instructors there, depending on the size, and we've got over 30 instructors there. So, if you can always find an instructor that's amazing with women and an amazing teacher that's like you in a lot of ways. Whether you're young, old, white, black, Asian, in a big city and in a small town in Europe, Asia, Latin America, wherever, you will find someone who's like you and who's able to use love systems to their best advantage. And that's very important too. I mean, your identity has to somewhere be based on you. And then once again, if you don't want it, if you don't find that where you are right now, that there's a ton that's going to really draw women in, then rather than make the surface level change, take this as an opportunity to make self changes. I mean, a lot of people have found that, learning love systems has helped them with their career, their social life outside of women, with friends, even the relationship with the family, and so on. So identity is something that you may have noted, from Cajun's talk, found a bunch of things in there that you can implement right away. but it's also a long-term thing that you can keep in mind and, set milestones and goals for you to become. And it can be a very powerful technique both for yourself and for attracting beautiful women.